Good day and welcome to this video. This particular video is on paths in file handling. So what are paths? Path is the location of a file or a directory in a file system. What you can see up here, /tmp/tutorials up to paths.py, that's the path to this file, paths.py, the script that is here currently. I'll explain the structure of files and directories in a file system. In any file system, you have the beginning of the file system. In a Unix-based operating system like Linux or Mac, it starts from slash. As you can see up here, you can see slash here. So that's how it is for Unix-based operating. For Windows, it starts from a drive letter. You see something like C colon and then backslash like that. Then you have everything and so on like that. So or D or whichever drive letter your file is on. So that's how the file system starts. Then from there you have directories or folders and files. So a folder or a directory can contain subfolders or subdirectories, and then those other ones too can contain files. So it keeps going on like that. When you are writing a file path in different operating systems, is different at times. For Linux or a Unix-based operating system like this, you can see it's a /, as you can see up here, / like that. But for Windows, normally it is / like this. So just take note of that. That's for the operating system. But when you are using Python and you want to access a file, you use /, not /. So if I were to access this file now and I'm going to use any path separator, so it's called a path separator. It is whenever you type the name of a directory, like this /tmp now, /tmp up there is a directory, as you can see here, /tmp. So after a directory, you have to put a slash to be able to access then whatever comes after that slash must be another directory or a file within this /tmp that is here. The same thing goes on and on for tutorials, the directory or a folder. Then slash has to come after it to access paths, and then that's what the path separator is for, to separate between this directory, then what is inside, and so on like that. That's what the path separator is. So in Python, you use the / when you are writing file paths. Normally, there are two types of file paths, two categories of file paths. You have absolute file paths. And what that means is the path starts from the root directory of that file system. So that's for Linux, here is /. For Windows, like I said, with the drive letter can be C, and then you have something like this. So, but if you are going to write the path in Python, you don't use /, you use / like this. So that's how it is. So if I was type since you've gone through file handling before, use open. Just say file equals open. There's something else I showed. This is the directory I've prepared for the tutorial. So this is the paths.py that is here, and then there's a sample text file that is here. This is the content of it. So then there's another directory inside that. Paths is the directory where this paths.py is located. So there's another directory they call sample dir. So there's a copy of that sample.txt inside this directory. So I'll be using these files and the structure to demonstrate what I want to teach in this video. So outside these paths, also inside tutorials here, this is another directory. That's where you have paths. Then you have this sample.txt also. I'll also use this file to demonstrate that. Now, inside paths, this is the directory where we are. To read this sample.txt using absolute file paths. Like I said, absolute file path starts from the root directory, from the beginning of the file system. That's this / here. So you have to type everything all the way down to where your file is. For example, for this file, sample.txt, it will be /tmp gmp/tutorials/paths/sample.txt. So we'll type that here now. gmp/tutorials/paths. I forgot to mention also on Android, it's if you are using an Android device, it's quite, you can see the suggestions already come up in IDL here. You can see the paths that are there. That directory, this path.py, this is sample.txt. So like I was saying, on Android, Android is also based on Linux. So it's just similar to what I'm doing here. Start from / and then continue like that. So you can use a file manager or something to check the path of a file. If you don't know the exact path, you just can copy from a file manager and paste it. Sample.txt is the file. So that's the absolute file path for sample.txt that is inside this same directory path.py here. So we just want to read it. So R, I want to use a text file. So just see if this is working. Do file print file.read and then file.close. You must remember to always close your files when you after opening them. So if I run this now, it must be saved. Okay, that's the contents of the file. After, let me put a new line here so that you can see that clearly. Okay, so this is the content of the file. Like, that's actually the content of the file. If you check here, you can see that that's the content. This is the content of the file. Then there's a new line after that. That's a blank line. So that's exactly what's showing here. You can see that the absolute file path is working. If you want to access, I said inside this sample dir, there's another sample.txt. To access that one, you just go ahead and then / after paths, you have sample dir, and then if I run this now, you will get the same. Because let me change what is inside so that you can see that it is different. This is the content of the file in sample dir. Good, that's it. If I run this now, F5, okay, you can see parts. This is the content of the file in sample dir. It's just like that. If you want to access the file that is here, let me also change the contents. The file outside parts, that is that directory part is outside it. So just save, and then the outside parts inside tutorials directly. So if I run this now, and you get that this is the content of the file outside parts. You can see that's how absolute paths work, starting from the beginning of the file system all the way down to where the file is. Now I'll deal with relative file paths. For relative file paths, what relative there means is that the access to the file system, or the access to the storage, starts from the current, what's called the current working directory. So current working directory, whenever I'm using an IDE or any IDE like this, normally is always the current working directory is where your file is stored, like where your file is saved. Since we are using IDLE here, this is our current working directory since we are running from here. But in the case of running from the command line, the case can be different. The current working directory is not necessarily where the file is. It's just the current working directory right there when you are working on the command line. In an IDE like this, the current working directory is where the file is saved. So this is the current working directory. And whenever you want to access a file, since we want to use relative file paths now, if you don't start from the beginning, like using C/ or Windows, or using / something on Linux or Unix, you will just, if I type this file name now, sample.txt, txt. This is a relative file path that is starting from the current working directory of my scripts, which is here. I can type the name of any one of these without putting slash or anything in front of it, and to be able to access them. So let's test that now. Sample.txt, just like this. So once I run this, you can see this is the content of the file. It's accessing the file right inside the same, that is in the same directory or the same folder with the script. If I want to access this sample.txt inside this sample dir, you will just type the name of that folder. Now you have sample dir / sample.txt. So this is a relative file path to sample.txt that is inside sample dir here. So once I run this, this is the content of the file in sample dir. The next thing is to access this file outside here. Now this will take us to another part. I'll explain some things before that. Normally you can write it like this and it will start from the current working directory. But in the case of accessing something that is outside the current working directory, like the sample.txt that inside tutorials here, we'll need something to represent what's called the parent directory. To represent current working directory, it's either you do it like without just starting from that file name, or you put /. / represents current working directory. That's the meaning of /. It represents current working directory. So if I run this, I'll get exactly the same output as before. You can see this is the content of sample dir. So / represents current working directory. So just remember that if I do / sample.txt, it will be the one exactly in this same directory with path.py here. Then there's what you call the parent directory. The parent directory of paths now. Paths is a directory. The parent directory of it is tutorials. The parent directory of tutorials is tmp, and so on like that. That's what parent directory means, the directory before a particular directory. How you represent parent directory in Python is .. / just like that. So if I do this now, .. / sample.txt, and I run this script, you can see this is the content of the file outside paths. That is this file that is here, this sample.txt that is here. You can see that's the content of it. When you want to use absolute file paths versus relative file paths, the disadvantages of absolute file paths is, one, if I transfer this script to a separate computer, or even the same computer on a different operating system or something, or I just move this tutorials folder to a different location on the same computer, this file path will no longer be valid at all. So that's the disadvantage of using absolute file paths. If I move this script now to another computer, the absolute file paths will be different, so you have to change it every time. But with this relative file path, if you move the file with the script to a different location, you get, let me demonstrate that here. Now, talking about the disadvantages of absolute file paths. For example, let's access this same file in the same directory with paths.py. That'll be /paths / sample.txt, and then this one just uses / sample.txt like that. If you run right now, both of them give you outputs correctly like that. So now let me show you the disadvantage of absolute file paths. If I rename these paths now, just to path, okay, I'll need to reopen the script. Let me just open it again here. If I don't edit any path there and I just run now, you can already see there's an error there. Trace back, file not found. You can see that's the error, no such file, /tmp/ everything like that. But if I comment this out, or just delete this absolute part, and I run for the relative, you can see the relative runs just fine like that without having to change the path to the file. That's the advantage of relative path over absolute path. You don't have to change the path over and over again. For relative file path, remember that dot slash means current working directory. Then dot slash is for parent directory. You can use that dot slash as many times as you want. Just one dot slash now. That's already inside tutorials like that. Because the current working directory is path, the parent directory of that is tutorials. Then if I use dot slash again, that is representing TMP here. So you can, these are the files in TMP that are showing. You can keep going as much as to access the particular file that you want to access. That's it for this video. Thank you very much.